Welcome to Seleni's Gateway. It is office hours. Today is October 4th of 2025. And it is the hour of the sun and the day of Saturn here in Portland, Oregon. Just learning how to use these tools that I've come across, and I kind of really enjoying being able to display the stellarium of where I am right now. I think it makes for a beautiful way of walking into what we're doing. We can take a look here and see what stars are actually on the horizon. And we see that we've got the Argo, the ship of Argo, out there. The ship of Argo. And we've got Hydra and Corvus, the crow. And yeah, it's just a normal day here in Portland, Oregon. You know, and even though these office hours are meant to be more relaxed, more of like a relaxed situation, I think that it's still important to start off right. And so we'll still start with doing the invocation of gratitude that we've been doing with our other live sessions. So take a moment to get comfortable as we invite the spirit of gratitude. We start with the land beneath our feet. We give gratitude to the land for supporting us all of our lives, for being the foundation that upholds us and the places that we gather under, for being the soil that nurtures all of life. We recognize her as Mother Earth, as Gaia, mother to all, birther and nurturer of all. It is through her gifts that we are blessed with these bodies that contain our spirit. Also that all of life is grateful to her, and she gives life to all without a demand of price or return. May we give as she gives. And with the land we recognize those that were here before us and were displaced by colonizing forces. We recognize the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, and Cathlamet, and others who thrived for time immemorial. We would like to see a just world where these lands are returned to their traditional relatives. And we give gratitude to the water that nurtures us and gives us strength. We have deep gratitude for its clean properties, and we believe it is our responsibility to help ensure that clean water remains available for all, including our plant and animal relatives of the present and the future. We give gratitude to all the plants. They provide us and many more with food and shelter. We thank them for their willingness to offer healing when we are sick, and we are grateful that we still have people that know how to commune with the plants and make medicine with our relatives. We give gratitude to all the animals. We are humbled when they give up their lives to be food and clothing for us, and we hope to see a restoration of the relationships with both the plant and animal communities, that we return to a balance and harmony. We give gratitude to the air for providing us with breath and lift. We are grateful to the spirit of breath and wind for carrying our words our prayers, our laughter on its back. We give gratitude to the sun for providing us with light and warmth, and we have gratitude that the balance of power shared between Gaia and Helios can be felt through the seasons, a reminder that all things need rest as well as growth. May we also give and share our light with such wisdom. And we give gratitude to the stars for guiding us. We believe that we shed and return our bodies to Gaia, our souls return to the heavens, and that the heavens contain the ancestors, and that through their light provide us with wisdom, comfort, and guidance. They taught some of us the rhythm of the seasons and how to navigate across both the seas and the skies. And we give gratitude to the 5 wandering stars, the wild sheep of Babylon, and the grahas of India. We thank them for holding, warning, and teaching us through the spheres of finality, mercy, conflict, love, and ingenuity. And finally, we give gratitude to Selene. She maintains the waxing and waning of the great ocean, as well as the generation and corruption of our lives. She softens the harsh rays and has taught many of us the rhythm of the plant and animal communities. She is the teacher of astrology and midwife to all who are born. May we bring comfort and guidance as she does. And so it is. And so it is. And so here we are. And yeah, so thank you for joining me. I'm going to be working on a friend's chart, but I've also been working on trying to make sure that y'all can see what I'm doing so that it's less of me like just writing things down on a piece of paper in front of me, and so that you can see what I'm actually working on. And so I've got up there as the planets as they can be seen from what's going on in Portland, Oregon, the map of now. And so, yeah, so we've got the Scorpio rising chart, Mars rising in the distance. We've got Venus going past her conjunction with the South Node. I'm going to switch this to whole sign because that's how I generally look at charts just initially. And yeah, so I kind of put myself here during office hours as an opportunity for people to come and ask questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. And other than that, the thing I'm working on today is I have a friend who is in a partnership with a lovely person, and I was hanging out with them not too long ago, and I noticed an interaction between them. It wasn't like cause for alarm, but it was cause for like, oh, you know, I should take a look at their synastry again, because I had before. And I just wanted to see how one aspect of my friend's life was affecting his partner. And so that's this chart here. And so his chart's on the inside wheel. It's in the blue glyphs. And then his partner's chart is on the outside wheel. And the thing I wanted to look at was basically like his Mars opposite her sun. And that's a pretty tense opposition. There's some wonderful things about their synastry, and they get along really well. But I think that this part of their chart is kind of hidden to them. And so the thing that I'm kind of looking at is like part of the reason why it's hidden is because for her, on the outside wheel, her sun is in the 12th house. So that's kind of a hard place for her to operate for her sect light from, just to begin with. And also for her, like his Mars is in her 6th house. And so this is kind of like a thing that she's experiencing that he may not be like aware of. And so basically what happened was I was out working with them on something, and we were doing a little bit of building. We were on like a camping trip, and we were building this thing, and we got it wrong. Me and the partner were trying to put something together, and we did something wrong, and it kind of we were able to fix it, but we had messed it up, and she had like a visceral emotional reaction to making a mistake. And emotions, and like it wasn't like, well, once again, like it wasn't alarming. But I wanted to look at this because they have such a beautiful built relationship, and they've got a lot of beautiful synastry, and they really take care of each other in a lot of wonderful ways. And one of the ways that they do this is like they support each other's luminaries. Her sun is actually also being sextiled and supported by this really beautiful exalted moon that he has. And then like if you twist their charts back and forth, like his luminary of Sect, for the chart, his destined light is the moon, and it moves into her 10th house from her perspective, and her sun moves out of the 12th to the 10th from his chart's perspective. And so they do this beautiful thing where they just lift each other up in all that they do. And but then we have this exalted Mars in Capricorn in my friend's 4th house, and I've known this about this person because you see this Mars showing up in so many ways to like support him. He works really hard. He's really good at like getting into grind mode and like accomplishing a bunch of stuff. It's like a really healthy expression of that Mars. And but this is a great example of sometimes like it's a really great example of how energy reverberates from us, and we don't know how it's being received from the other person. And you can see this in these types of synastry situations where like he is like just in go mode. He's just in like Mars go mode. And because of it operating in a dark house situation from her perspective, she feels it like really intensely, especially with how strong that opposition is to the sun. And so I just wanted to take some notes to see, what other areas this Mars might be affecting in her life, and how I already understand how the Mars is showing up for him because I've looked at his chart a lot, and yeah, I've kind of already unraveled that from his perspective. But there's this technique that you can do where you can see where the malefics are casting rays into somebody else's houses, into somebody else's chart, as a way of seeing where like their malefics maybe where like your malefics may be causing damage to their chart, and where their malefics may be causing damage to your chart, and you can look at that in a way of like seeing where relationship problems may arise. And once again, this is like, you know, from a psychological astrology perspective, this is like habits that you've formed that you may not even understand are like annoying to another person. Modes of being, maybe Mars is causing disruption in their fourth house, and so like you leave a mess and it annoys the crap out of them. Like these are the really like simple ways that this can show up. Or like you don't understand why they're not tight with their finances, but like their second house is a mess and your Saturn is casting like judgmental rays into their second house. Like, what do you mean you don't do your taxes on time? Stuff like that. So these are the like lived experience ways when these can show up. And so that's what I'm looking at today. So we've got Mars in Capricorn, and what I'm mainly looking for is what the angles are from Mars into her chart, because I already know that in his chart we're seeing Mars on the angles. It's in his fourth, so it's casting angular rays to his first, his seventh, and his 10th. And it's really strong. But it's not like the only strong thing in his chart. So it doesn't get to like dominate like the angle that it's casting to his ascendant and to Venus, and just that cluster that's in his first house. Like the first house gets to say what's going on, not the not the Mars, because the first house is in the very strong dominant position, and I don't think you can see my cursor, which I'll have to learn how to fix. Let's take a look here really quick. Because what you're looking at is an image that I took, because I didn't want to share, their private information. I'll have to work on that at a different time. But so, just so you can see, or just so you can understand what I'm talking about, the Libra glyph is on the left-hand side of the screen, and that's my friend's first house. And the blue glyphs in that area, kind of like corralled in, are all the planets in his first house. And so he's got Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, and Uranus all piled up together in the first house. And so Mars doesn't get to dominate them. They're being supported by both. That whole house is being supported by both benefics. Venus is in her domicile of Libra. It's the ascendant. It's the rising sign. Like, this is this person to a T. They're very philosophical. They care about beauty and unity and harmony. They're a little bit radical with their ideas, and they love to communicate and make people feel at ease. Like, this is this person to a T. And so he gets to use that martial energy in his Capricorn fourth house as a way of like supporting, building, sustaining, putting effort into the things that he wants to achieve. And but what it's doing to her house is it's living in the sixth, which is the place of drudgery and hidden enemies, and also where we labor. And it can also be a place of health. And so we want, especially as a Cancer sun, we want to make sure that like her needs aren't being neglected for health and food and things of that nature, because he can really push himself, especially having, if you look at the Taurus glyph and the blue Saturn and moon, that Saturn moon conjunction. I mean, the moon's really strong in Taurus, but it still has that Saturn sitting there, telling it like, "Oh, you don't need food right now. You can put that off. You can wait till you've finished your Mars task." And so we just need to make sure that that concept, that idea, isn't being displaced onto his partner. And this isn't all like, I'm not doing this because like I'm just as like, oh, I'm curious, like, my friend wanted to know if there were things in the chart that pointed to things that he could work on because he really cares, and so that's why I'm looking through these things. And so because it's the 6th, that means it's automatically opposite the 12th. The 12th house is where we find more of our spiritual problems. The 6th house is more of the physical problems that we run into, the things that we need to do, like brush our teeth, do our taxes, take care of our body. You can go to the gym in the 6th house, like take a trip to the doctor to get your physical. Like, these are the types of problems that you solve in the 6th house. And then in the 12th house, there's kind of more of like a subconscious internal problems arise. In ancient Egyptian astrology, they would look at the 12th house for spiritual problems, spiritual afflictions. It's one of the reasons why it gets the name the house of the bad daemon, or bad spirit. It's where we can find anxieties and bad dreams. It's also where we can go to meditate. Physical spaces that show up in the 12th house is things like prisons, ascetic religions like monasteries and stuff like that, where you live in a temple and you spend a lot of time meditating and stuff like that. Also, mental institutions is another place where the 12th house is. And sometimes what you end up finding is people with 12th house placements being really good at helping other people through their problems. And so you find a lot of like people with luminaries in the 12th being good at like psychoanalysis or wanting to get into some sort of like mental health field. And there's this funny thing that goes around the mental health field where like if like it's even required that if you're a professional therapist, like, you need to go to therapy so that you can help funnel out all of the psychological psychic emotions that you're getting from other people. So it's this great like funnel for people with 12th house placements of going into careers that utilize that field. Or like I have a friend who has the sun in the 9th, and their 12th house is Leo, and so they're kind of interested in that stuff too, because they and it gives them a good perspective over that 12th house place by having the sun in the 9th. So it helps, like, they can use that sun to go to school and study and learn things about 12th house topics and be able to illuminate it for other people to see and understand. So what I'm looking at though is that my friend's Mars is in a very direct opposition to his partner's Sun in the 12th house. So he needs to we need to talk about how when he's in his martial energy, that uh, that he's un like not purposefully like energizing those rays that are being seen by her son, and so that's this kind of like thing that he should be aware of, so that like he can be mindful when he's in Mars mode and really engaged with accomplishing, getting things done and things of that nature, that like to try not to project those expectations of acting and moving and thinking in that manner towards his partner. And maybe just spending time, meditating together on the sphere of Mars, on what action feels like, on what harsh words sound like. Or he's definitely, this person's very mindful, and he's definitely going to spend his time meditating on this on his own, so that he can come to his own realizations about it. But so this also means that it's casting casting a square to the 9th and 3rd. And in her chart, we're looking at the 3rd house as Libra and the 9th house as Aries. So that may be like sending challenges. Maybe this comes out even more when they're traveling, because both the 3rd and the 9th are seen as places of travel. And whoops. So maybe that's part of what the experience is about, is that because it casts squares to the 3rd and 9th, the challenges intensify. When they're operating in that space, when they're not operating at home. Because Mars is in, for her 4th house is Scorpio, and Mars is in a really supportive position for her 4th house. It's making a sextile. It's a strong Mars inner 6 making a sextile to the 4th. And so from the supportive side, and I do notice that he definitely helps out with chores and helps maintain the space. And so that's, I think that's definitely showing up exactly as you would expect it to. She does have Pluto there, so there's probably some past issues that she's had to deal with over her life with Pluto in the 4th, but I don't think that I don't think that Mars is causing issue there. I think that Mars is definitely helping like move things around in the 4th to keep things tidy, keep things neat, he's always doing the dishes and sweeping and stuff like that. So that's how I feel like that's showing up. And then his Saturn kind of appears in this like domineering role, and is in the 10th and the 4th, and is in the 10th in her chart, casting rays to the 1st, 7th, and 4th. And so this may create a rigidity, but his moon is also there, and that's going to soften that Saturn. It's a tight conjunction, but it's going to soften that Saturn. And her Mars is in her 10th as well, so like there may be a sense of competing, but it's not. Yeah, I think that the moon is really negotiating that space. And she also has Venus in her first house. And so she's got a lot of control, or a lot of operating space there, and Mercury in his joy in the first. And Jupiter's casting, from her chart, Jupiter is in detriment in the second, but it's casting positive rays to the 10th. And so, yeah, we definitely see that Saturn being softened by a lot of these other things going on. And then her Mars this is part of where the thing is happening between them as well, is because her Mars is also in one of his dark houses. But it's trining his Mars in Capricorn. His Mars is in the overcoming position. It's in the stronger angle to her Mars, but there's definitely agreement with the way that the energy should move. So it's nice to not see that that the Marses are competing for space, that they're moving with each other. And both Marses are being taken care of by strong Venuses to help make sure that they act within a Venusian manner. But if you're watching this, feel free to drop questions in the chat. I'm here mostly here for questions while I work on stuff. I just want to make that available. And yeah. So I wonder if anybody's here, just let me know. Last week, my friend Najee stopped by. It was really nice to talk to them. Let's see, taking a look at the chart, we've got, and yeah, her Saturn's in his 5th. So that means it's casting rays to the 11th. Opposition. And then also to his 8th. Yep, 8th and then 2nd. So yeah, we kind of see, yeah, that's kind of more of like structuring finances. Guiding community choices. It's a strong Saturn in Aquarius. All right. So that gives me a pretty good scope. What's going on there? Let's see, let's go ahead and let's work on some lots. Let's see. We'll work on knowledge of wisdom, learning and understanding. Okay, let's see. Let's pull up. So I'm just going to be pulling up a different chart, because I think I've done what I've needed to with this one. And let's see, let's go for birth chart. We're going to go with, who are we going to go look at? Let's see. I can't remember if this is a timed chart. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to be looking at the lot of wisdom and understanding and knowledge. And we're going to be looking at it through the lens of Bill Hicks. So this should be fun. And so the lot of wisdom and understanding and knowledge is the combination of the idea of Saturn being something that rules history, time, legacy, knowledge that's passed on from generation to generation, and then Jupiter, which regulates our ability to create understanding and apply knowledge in a wise manner that allows us to understand things that are outside of us. And then the lot is projected from Mercury, which highly represents our mind. And so it's like this combination of like ancient knowledge filtered through the wisdom of being able to apply the wisdom in the moment, and then how our mind resources that information and where it ends up in the chart. And so that's what I'm going to be doing now. And so the first place we look at is we look at the 9th house. And we see that his 9th house is Gemini. And we see that a lot of fortune itself lands there, so that's interesting, that his fortune would come from the house of knowledge and understanding. And the thing that I appreciate about Bill Hicks as a comedian is that he definitely used his wisdom and understanding in his comedy as a way of trying to expand people's perceptions. And I think a lot of comedians try to do that. Or at least a lot of the comedians that I enjoy try to do that. There's definitely comedians out there that just try to make people laugh by just being wild and just saying wild things to get a rise out of people. But the comedians that I know definitely fall into this category of trying to, bring a lens or a mirror on society and its structures, like especially like, Bill Hicks and George Carlin are my top 2 favorite comedians, and they definitely did that, especially George Carlin in his later years. He was very reflective and diabolically critical of social structure. So anyway, we find out the degrees of Mercury. So Mercury's degrees in his chart are 24 degrees and 1 minute of Sagittarius, and you see this Mercury-Mars conjunction right away, and that's definitely a critique. That's definitely a strong critiquing vibe, being able to say like martial words. We've got a Mercury-Mars conjunction coming up in the sky here this month, and but it's in Scorpio, so like Mercury is going to be speaking the words of Mars. Instead of here in Bill Hicks's chart, we have Mercury and Mars conjoining in Sagittarius, and so they're both agents of Jupiter in this chart. And even in Bill Hicks's like heyday, he was still doing a lot of performances in small clubs, and you kind of see this in comedians' charts. Is you'll see 3rd house placements, because that's the 3rd house is like the local experience, whereas the 9th house is the traveled experience. And so his lot of fortune is pulling him towards traveling long distances and going far and wide, but he's always like he was always pulled back to these small clubs, and and especially after he became better known, there was some videos of him like getting into not altercations, but like verbal disputes with hecklers in smaller clubs. So you can kind of see the Mars in a couple of ways there. But you also have Venus co-present, so Venus is doing a lot of mingling energy of like creating harmony, wanting to create harmony, wanting to create, balance. And so Mars isn't like a a damaging structure in this chart. It's definitely there to empower Mercury to be able to speak honestly. And we also have the sun there. It's kind of like in this chart, the sun is seemingly tucked away into Capricorn, but it's dead conjunct that Mercury. So finding his identity through speech, was obviously always going to be a part of his life. Whenever, whoever he was going to become, he was always going to be known for having a feisty wit and way of speaking. I couldn't even imagine having all of this in a fire sign. And Jupiter can see it all. It's being navigated through the outsider energy of Aquarius in the fifth, but Jupiter is able to still like govern and but regardless, you just have all of this fiery energy like empowering that Mercury. His mind must have been so fast, and like a lot of his jokes like were kind of like framed in this construct of like, isn't it absurd that this is the way society acts? And you can also see this of his critique of like capitalism and his critique of advertising, like his jokes about advertisers and stuff like that. Like you see that just like wrapped up into this combination of Mercury, the Sun, and Mars. But back to the lot. So we've got Mercury at 24 degrees in 1 minute. So that means that's, let's see, 360, 330. So I'm doing this the mathematical style of like starting from 0 degrees of Aries, and then you just count all the degrees until you get to the planet. And so Sagittarius starts at 240. The first degree of Sagittarius is 240 degrees. So then you add Mercury's 2 degrees to that, so you get 264 in 1 minute. 264 degrees in 1 minute. And then we're going to look at Jupiter. And Jupiter, Aquarius starts at 300. So Jupiter's at 307 degrees in 5 minutes. And then we're going to subtract Saturn. And so Capricorn starts at 270, and that Saturn's at 27, so that's 297.56, 297 degrees and 56 minutes. And I hope this is riveting for anybody that watches this later, of me just doing math out loud. So we take Mercury and Jupiter and add them together. So Mercury 264 degrees plus Jupiter 307 degrees. So 4 plus 7 is 11. So that makes 6 plus 0 plus 1. So that's 71. And then 2 plus 3 equals 571 degrees. And then we subtract Saturn at 297. We end up at 274. Then we have to go like this. So it's actually 2:73 in 10 minutes. So that makes Capricorn 3 degrees. So the final number after the math is 273 degrees in 10 minutes is where his lot of wisdom and understanding falls. And 270 is the beginning of Capricorn. So we find this at 3 degrees in 10 minutes of Capricorn. And so that's in the 4th house. And it's really close to his IC. Really close to his IC. That's conjunct his IC. So that's really interesting. So then we note if Saturn, Jupiter, or the Lord of the Ascendant cast rays on the lot. And Saturn's co-present. So we would say that his knowledge and understanding is definitely coming from a Saturnian perspective. And Saturn is the Lord of the lot. So in that, we're going to say that Bill Hicks was probably really interested in history, in the roots, just looking back as a way of looking forward. I wonder if his family was, well, Capricorn as the IC can sometimes mean that you come from humble beginnings or you come from an inheritance. And I believe Bill Hicks came from humble beginnings. And the reason why I say that is because Saturn rules both people who work with their hands, people who work with the land, and also rules like the ultra wealthy. And so you can see this this complete opposite side of the coin. Saturn doesn't rule the middle of wealth. Saturn rules those that are impoverished, widows, people that are wounded, and people that are like paraplegics and stuff like that. People who are born with abnormalities. There's a kinder way of saying that, but the physically challenged. But Saturn also rules the other side of the coin, where Saturn rules like the ultra rich, the people that are so wealthy that they isolate themselves. And that's where the Saturnian aspect comes in, is that they live outside of society. So it's still Saturn ruling outsiders, but it's ruling but one group of people are seemingly outsiders because of poor experiences, and then the other side is they're outsiders because they're choosing to separate themselves from society. And so this is like the billionaire class, and oftentimes we can see and say about the rich, about people that are wealthy, that they've lost touch, that they don't have an understanding of like reality or the way that we experience life, and it's because of this like separation that they create in themselves. But if I'm remembering correctly, Bill Hicks came from more humble means. I think he came from a working class family, so I think that's what the IC in the 4th house is showing up as for him. His family may have also come, his dad or somebody may have also been a preacher. I'm not trying to go deep into his biographical history. I'm just kind of like skimming what I remember. But if you've just arrived, I'm looking at the chart of Bill Hicks, and we're looking at the lot of wisdom and understanding. So we've found that his lot is in Capricorn. It's really close to his IC. It's basically, it's like a degree away from his IC in Capricorn. And Saturn is co-present with it. So we see that that his wisdom and understanding comes from a foundation of like historical knowledge, and and also probably from a like the grit of the earth type of like understanding as well. Like, you know, the type of wisdom that like crafts people have. We use the term salt, the salt of the earth, people that are the salt of the earth these days. And the only issue with that is when you salt the earth, nothing grows. It's a like a military tactic that kind of wove itself into our lexicon in this really strange way. And because like you often hear like politicians or speakers or stuff like that refer to like farmers as the salt of the earth, and like the military tactic of salting the earth is so that like you take over, you like destroy your enemy, you take over their land, you salt the earth so they can't grow anything there and have to move on. And so so it's this really weird, like it's kind of like pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. Like you can't do that. That's impossible. And so like for people to challenge you to do that is an inherently like condescending and malefic thing to say to you, because you can't do that. And it used to be like the normal, it used to mean that. And so like some people have twisted that language. So I think that's what's happened with the salt of the earth. So I like to say the grit of the earth, you know, people that are the grit of the earth is where his understanding probably comes from. And so the texts say that if Saturn, Jupiter, or the Lord of the Ascendant can cast rays on the lot, that it signifies a person of great constancy in their learned pursuits, great intelligence and learning. And so I think this definitely shows up in Bill Hicks's sketch about like reading in a diner. Like he was just always constantly reading and trying to learn new things. So I think that definitely shows up. And then we're gonna go to see. Let's see. It's Capricorn's a cardinal sign. So it says that when the lot of wisdom and understanding falls into a cardinal sign, then it's going to mean that the person's going to pursue spiritual matters with a clear mind and open interest, but will move from tradition to tradition. And so, so he probably, he probably studied a lot of different religious texts. And you can see this in his comedy as well, because he talks about psychedelics and stuff like that, but he kind of has this thing where he talks about like, and then the teen realizes that everything is a slow moving vibration and we are all one. Like that's very like he goes into this monologue, and it kind of like comes out as this like Buddhism thing. So I don't know if he spent time studying Buddhism or Hinduism or something like that. He was definitely raised like Southern Baptist Christian, something like that. So you can see this, ringing true as well, that he probably studied a lot of different religious texts with a clear mind, and probably a scrupulous mind, because his Jupiter lording over his Venus, Mars, Mercury, and Sun in Sagittarius is in Aquarius. So he definitely probably approached everything with like a clear, scrutinizing, like dry thing. Like things needed to make sense for him in order for them to be adopted into his understanding. And then it also says that he may have been governed by traditions, because Saturn, when Saturn governs the lot, it says that Saturn will implore them to be governed by traditions. And we can probably say that he, by looking at the fact that his Venus, Mars, and Mercury and Sun are all together in Sagittarius, and it's governing, like, that Venus is getting all that influence and governing his ascendant. He was probably governed by traditions, but he probably wanted to, like, go out and seek new things in the world. Because the Sagittarius mind, the Sagittarius soul wants to seek out, like, new experiences, new adventures, new ideas, and, like, even if they're not seeking out new, they want, the Sagittarius soul wants to share things with other people. They want to bring their understanding and experience to other people. So there's this for a lack of better words, like a preaching mentality. It's either like a leadership, like, come with me, let's go do this thing that sounds really fun, like, I'm going, like, right now, are you with me? Or also, like, I've landed in this space and I want to share with you, like, these things that I've learned. One of my favorite Sagittariuses that I've known, who's more of, like, the Sagittarius sun and rising. So I worked in kitchens for 20 years, and so this person that I met, they, like, spent like a year in a kitchen and then moved on, and they're like, don't get too attached to me because I'm going to fly the coop and never contact you ever again. So I'm going to listen to you and you're going to teach me everything you know, but like I'm not going to become a manager here. Like, I'm going to move on. Like, in my role in kitchens as a butcher, as a cook for 20 years and a butcher, I end up being more of in this because I don't want to ever become a chef or a manager. I end up in these more supportive roles of, like, as, like, a teacher and a guide, like, teaching people how to cut meat, but also, like, how to manage their kitchen experience. And so they end up coming to me for advice and stuff like that. But yeah, so this person was like, I'm gonna disappear, and sure enough, like, they hit, like, almost a year and a half, and when they felt like they had hit a lull in their learning, they were, bam, gone. Never heard from them ever again. They're probably still in Portland somewhere, and I will never see them again unless I end up, like, going into the back of the house of some random restaurant that they're working at. But so that's this, like, Sagittarius energy, is that the wanting, the drive to, like, seek and gain and new, and, like, the centaur does a really good job as an image of describing this Sagittarius energy, because it's about, like, bringing things in and incorporating them, like they're seeking these experiences and wisdoms and knowledge and attributes, and it brings them joy. The newness brings them joy, and then they add it in as a piece. Whatever they want from that experience, they add it in as a piece of themselves. So they become more horseman, more combination of the internal and the external. And so when we say that Bill Hicks was governed by traditions, I think that this will probably, because it's in the fourth house, it's probably more governed towards that, like, grid of the earth tradition of wanting to express himself through and to the working class, because he kind of had this, like, his comedy definitely had this, like, wake up working class, like, they're tricking you, they're fooling you, like, pay attention. and I really like that about Bill Hicks's comedy, is that he really was trying to reach into, like, everyday people and try to bring them into this, like, realm of, like, it's all a game, or they're tricking you, or, wake up. I'm not going to try to do a Bill Hicks impression. That would be an absolutely terrible choice. But that's part of his comedy that I really enjoyed, is that he would have these monologues and go into these things, and and then he like combine, ideas like, Jesus pulling the thorn out of a dinosaur's foot, like, and showing the absurdity of the idea that the world is only as old as the Christian Bible says it is. And if you're just joining me, I'm here doing a live stream to be able to answer questions, and I'm kind of just working on some stuff. But I'm definitely open to hearing the chat, and so feel free to type in. And what I'm doing on the screen is I'm looking at Bill Hicks's chart, and I'm looking at the Arabic lot of wisdom and understanding. And just to clarify, the Arabic lots are mathematical points, and what's up, Orphic? Orphic Astrology dropping in. So I'm breaking down Bill Hicks's chart, and I'm going through the lot of wisdom and understanding right now. And what the Arabic lots are is they're mathematical points that are created through the relationship of other objects on the chart. And so the lot of wisdom and understanding is the mathematical relationship between Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn. So anyway, just to update Orphic here, the lot of wisdom and understanding for Bill Hicks is conjunct his IC, basically. It's at 3 degrees and 10 minutes of Capricorn. And what I've covered so far is that Saturn sees the lot, so this creates a constancy in his knowledge and pursuit. It's also ruled by Saturn, so he's governed by traditions, and I've been talking about how the Saturnian traditions can come both from the working class, but also the higher, as I like to call them, the glutton class, the billionaires and whatnot. And then it's a cardinal sign, so we're saying that he probably pursued spiritual matters with a clear mind and open interest, but will move from tradition to tradition. Now we're going to look at the aspects that are making to the lot. And so we have got Saturn. So Saturn's making the aspect by being in the co-present sign of Capricorn. So we're going to see laws, traditions, and I bet you it also says that he may have, and yeah, he's definitely a reformer. Orphic Astrology says that the reformer, definitely that. Laws and traditions, and it also says that when Saturn aspects the lot, that there's magical abilities, and I think his magical ability was his oration, and we'll see if something else like that shows up. And let's see, it's in aversion to Jupiter, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, so the only other planet that can see the lot besides Saturn traditionally is the moon. So it says that it also gives him travel, dreams, and esotericism. And so we see this travel indication coming up in not just where the lot of fortune is in his chart, but also in this part of his lot of wisdom and understanding. So travel, dreams, and esotericism. And I believe he did get into some esoteric stuff when he was later in life, just before he died, and I wonder how much of his comedy came from inspirational dreams. It would be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to know. I wish I could interview him and ask him, although it would also be funny to have him make fun of me for being an astrologer, and I hope that he would accept that as a trade. But yeah, so that's the lot of wisdom and understanding. Next, we're going to work on the lot of punishment. Oh, you know what though? I did that lot backwards. I didn't reverse it. And this is part of the process of doing something new. So yeah, I'm new to using this lot, so I didn't make sure to reverse for the night chart. And that's fine. I'm okay with making mistakes. I already have the degrees of the planets set up, so it's not going to be hard for me to reverse. But now I have to take back absolutely everything I said. So we've got Mercury at 264 degrees, Saturn at 297, 56 minutes, and then Jupiter. So instead of describing the lot of wisdom and understanding, I basically just described his fourth house. Because all of that stuff that I said about like where he came from and things of that nature, all of that still applies, especially to his IC. But we'll see where his lot of wisdom and understanding lands now. Part of I don't need to make excuses, but I'm gonna go ahead and make one more in that doing astrology while presenting it on a screen is new for me. So there's my last excuse that I'm gonna use. I do like the challenge of doing this live though, because it just makes me get better at it. Let's see. So 254 degrees, 180, 210, 240. So it actually lands conjunct his Venus at 14 degrees and 52 minutes of Sagittarius. So instead, we still get the constancy. So that still applies. Because Jupiter, actually we get more constancy. Because it says if Jupiter, Saturn, or the Lord of the Ascendant cast rays on the lot, then it signifies a person of great constancy in their learned pursuits, great intelligence, and learning. So this is now like tripled. Because before the lot only was able to be seen by Saturn, but now with it being in Sagittarius, it's seen by Jupiter and Venus. And also like Mercury is present too, so like I would count that. It's not one of the significations for that first part, but we've got the Lord of his Ascendant on top of his lot of wisdom and understanding. And Jupiter can cast rays upon it. So we've now increased the meaning of that delineation instead of something weird and radical like it being destroyed. And then it says if Mercury cast rays, it shows a mind for experimentation, research, learning, occult things, and applying that knowledge. So the Mercury, the lot now is even more intellectual. It shows a higher sense of his intellectual ability, and I think that's really awesome. And then, furthermore, because it's now in a double body sign, this makes a lot more sense because now it's in a double body sign, and instead of it being a pursuit of spiritual matters with a clear mind and open interest, it says that the interest will wax and wane, and they will attempt to walk in many faiths. And to me, I think that describes what we're seeing through Bill Hicks's life a little bit better. Walk in many faiths. Or with Jupiter being in Aquarius, maybe the doubter of many faiths as well. I doubt he ever came to a conclusion about, oh, this is my faith, this is my religion, this is what I believe. I think it, especially during the late 80s, early 90s, it was starting to, science was increasing its ability to communicate just how weird reality is. That nothing is solid and everything is constantly changing and moving. And it's governed by Jupiter. So instead of being governed by traditions, he would be governed by morality and philosophy. And this makes a lot more sense. I kind of felt like I was tugging a little bit, and that's where I was trying to root my delineation in the grid of the earth mindset. But morality and philosophy definitely show through in the way that he speaks and presents himself in his comedy. And then next up, we see aspects. And so now we're getting a lot of aspects. Whereas before, we were only getting aspects from Saturn and the Moon. Now we don't get any aspects from Saturn, and we're getting aspects from every other traditional planet. What book am I using for the delineation of the lots? I'm using the translations that have been presented by Dr. Aolomi from Head on History, and his translations come from a combination of Abu Mashar and several other traditional texts. And that was a question by Deconstruct. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. If I know you by a different name, please let me know. So with Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon all making aspects to this lot, that means that the person will have an interest in formal learning, teachers, travel, contests, gnosis, spiritual healing, devotion, ecstatic work, texts and oracles, soothsaying, travel, and dreams. Yeah, I don't know if he has a Discord, but he does have a Patreon. But yeah, so now we're seeing that Bill Hicks has all of these things coming through the other planets now that we're looking at the lot in its proper place. And this is how you can definitely see that the position of a lot and getting its calculation correct matters deeply, because we're seeing four indications of travel if you include his lot of fortune. I love that Mars represents travels and contests, because I feel like his style of comedy was very, very much like him in a contest with the crowd and him in a contest with society. As far as the gnosis and spiritual healing and devotion and ecstatic work, I feel like that may have been diminished by his Jupiter in Aquarius, because you get more of a cynical construct of life when you have Jupiter in Aquarius, or it does come across as being cynical. Oh, also good to see Amber here. Glad to see you joining me today, as well as, oh, okay, Muffin of Doom. Yes, yes, I recognize you as Muffin of Doom for sure. Welcome. Amber is a classmate of mine. We've both studied with Austin Coppock at his Fundamentals of Astrology course. Highly recommend that course. He's starting open enrollment on October 15th. He did not pay me to say that. I just really appreciated going through his material. He presents it he does a good job of building the framework and fleshing it as far as like the technique of astrology and then giving it meaning. And I'm pretty sure Amber can agree with that statement. So anyway, back to this thought. But yeah, I think that well, actually we've pretty much covered it. And then I was going to move on to the lot of punishment, I believe it is. And so that's Saturn to Mars from the ascendant. But we're going to make sure to reverse it because it's a night chart. So we already have the number for Saturn, 297.56. This time we start with the degree of the ascendant. And then, so it's originally Saturn to Mars, and then we're going to reverse it from Mars to Saturn. So Saturn plus the ascendant minus Mars. Yeah, Amber's agreeing. She loves FOA, as do I, and we're both Scorpio people. So Austin's classes tend to do well with the more scorpionic field of people, especially if you have strong eclipse points in your chart, or if you were born around an eclipse. You get to learn the depths and the in and out of eclipse of the way that eclipses influence our lives. And Austin also gets to be a little bit more dark in his school than he does on the astrology podcast. I'll just say it like that. Let's see. So the ascendant is at 185. Ascendant is 185.04. And I'm getting that, just to clarify, I'm getting that 185 because if we're starting at 0 degrees Aries, Libra is 180 degrees away from that, and then we add whatever point to that, so 185.05. Once again, we get Saturn is at 297.56. And then Mars is at, let's see, 180, 210, 240, 263.39. So Saturn plus the ascendant equals 482. And then subtract Mars. So we get 9 degrees, 4, 249, 2:49 and 22 minutes. So 2:49. Okay, so that's 9 degrees of Sagittarius. I don't have a direct textual delineation for this lot, but it's basically the lot of where all the hard things happen. And so 9 degrees and 22 minutes Sagittarius. And so this seems to be where he's going to find the most difficulty through his life. And so we definitely see this showing up in his hecklers, the hecklers that he would come across throughout his career. We also see it coming up as probably has something to do with his health. I believe in sidereal, I believe that's the second decan of Scorpio. So I don't remember what he died from. I'm curious if he died from something that had to do with prostate cancer or something like that, because that's where the lot would show up health-wise somewhere in his genital area. And then at 9 degrees and 22 minutes, that's the Dodecotemoria of, let's see, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, of Pisces. And so, yeah, so we definitely see the 6th house being emphasized as part of where he was going to experience his hardest moments. And he did die of a pretty young age, so it was pancreatic cancer. Which is part of the stomach. Well, anyway, I'm not a medical astrologer, so I can't. So I'm not going to pretend to do medical astrology right now. I just pretty good at remembering where the sidereal decans kind of show up. Yeah, and he did die very young at 32, and it was a health issue. So we see the lot of punishment showing up in that Dodecotemoria of Pisces, his house of health. So now we'll take a look at, let's see, the other thing that I like about when I'm looking at a chart, and I kind of just pulled this up as a fun one to do. It's never always going to be quote unquote cheerful here at Celanese Gateway, because I have a lot going on as far as oppositions, and I've got both malefics with my moon, and so there's always going to be a heaviness and a political edge, a heaviness, a seriousness. Try to keep it as light as I possibly can, but there's always going to be a darkness there. So anyway, but the other thing that's interesting about his chart that I was going to bring up is that his moon is angular, and his moon is his light of destiny. And the thing that's cool about that is, that's one of the things that you look at when you're looking for, is this person going to be known? And so, yeah, he's got a one single point of eminence, and I don't have the table of the lots of eminence in front of me right now. Otherwise I'd cast that lot, but I'm basically in the process of just having fun with some lots. And the next one I'm going to do is, as Austin describes, the lot of all the good things. And so by day, that's Jupiter to Venus. And so by night, that's Venus to Jupiter. So once again, we start with the ascendant at 85 degrees and 05 minutes. Venus at Jupiter. Then we go Jupiter. Jupiter's degrees are at, let's see, 180, 240, 270, 300. So 307, 05. And then subtract Venus. And Venus is at 253, 56, 58. 253. This turns to 10. 9. 492. 238.48. 238.48. So that's the close to the last degree of Scorpio. And does that make sense to me? I feel like it does. So this turns into 28 degrees and 48 minutes of Scorpio. And that's going to be the Dodecota Moria of Libra. And I believe that's the bound of Mars. No, that might be the bound of Saturn. Anyway, that's just me going off the top of my head. So I'm not going to, I don't have a chart. Actually, do I have a chart I can pull up really quick for that? Let's take a look here. Here we go. Okay, yeah, it is the bound of Saturn. The bound of Saturn. So, one of the fun ways to look at the lots is to look at the lots through whatever decan that they fall in. And so the decan that the lot of all the good things lands in is represented in the Rider-Waite-Smith as the Seven of Cups. And so we definitely would say that Bill Hicks enjoyed his drink. I believe he also enjoyed many other pleasures that come with the Venus and Scorpio realm of hallucinogens and other kinds of addictions. I don't remember if he... and it doesn't always have to be addictions. Like, it's just sometimes when you have things like pulling you in that direction, it's easy to like fall off into it. And comedians aren't known for levity. So that's they aren't known for keeping a balance on what they're doing. But yeah, we can definitely see that that he enjoyed it. I hope that he at least enjoyed himself during the brief time that he was alive. And yeah, with Venus not having a line of sight, Mars not really having a line of sight, and Neptune also sharing that sign, you can probably see how some of that stuff would maybe get away from him. But all in all, I think that that's a really interesting placement for that lot in his chart. What this doesn't show is his lot of spirit. But it looks like it probably lands, without me doing the math really quick, looks like it probably lands in the probably in the 5th house. Let's see. Ascendant equals 185 degrees and 5 minutes. The moon equals 12 degrees and 32 minutes. The sun equals 240, 264 and 3 minutes. There, 9, 37, 34, 3, 133, 30, 60. Oh wait, I needed to go 264. Minus 197. I'm going the wrong way. 614, 7 there. 5, 1. 15, that's 6. So negative 67. So we're going the other way. 30, 60. Okay, yeah, so it lands in Capricorn at 23 degrees and 26 minutes. And so yeah, the lot of spirit, you're able to find things like, what governs the soul, how does the soul operate, and now instead of the lot of wisdom and understanding landing in Capricorn, we have this lot of spirit landing in Capricorn, and it's really close to being conjunct that Saturn. So that's definitely describes some of the other stuff that I had said earlier in the talk, which was that he had a deep connection to the working class. He had an adversarial relationship with the glutton class or the billionaire class, things of that nature. And his comedy was really, like, his spirit was always really geared towards the people. And I really feel that from him. Curious about what it says for his lunar mansion. His tropical lunar mansion. I use the Arabic menzils. And his is really close to a barrier. I think his is in the first manzil, which is Al Sharatan, I think. Yep, sure enough, Al Sharatan. And it says Those born under this mansion will be argumentative, struggle with ongoing frustrations, and are restless. Their spirit inclined to asfad, which is refers to corruption, mischief. They will have frequent migraines. I do remember him taking like a lot of like migraine medicine or like Advil and stuff like that. They're fair in form, hasty, and will have strife in their partnerships. Advice must be given to them in a way that they come to the conclusion themselves. And so I've renamed this. I've been kind of trying to create my own names for the mansions so that it's easier for me to remember them. Which is why I remembered that it was El Sheraton, is because that's a reference to the horns of the horns of the ram. And so I've titled this in my own writing. I've titled this mansion Ramming Speed, and yeah, you definitely see the argumentative style of comedy. I don't think like he ever had like extremely long lasting relationships, but I might be wrong about that. Like I said, I'm not like completely dedicated to his biography. But the thing that I always love about this mansion is the part where it says like advice must be given to them as a way that they've like come to their own conclusion about it. And I've definitely had friends with the moon in the early part of Aries that is like that. Yeah, you can't just like give them advice. You have to be like presented in the form of a question, or like maybe present some ideas that they can reflect on, that they come to their own understanding. It's just that individuation, the wanting to be independent of the Aries moon is just really such a strong like signature, and especially in the mansion of ramming speed. Like I'm going for it. I need to go. I've got all this Mars energy in my body and it needs to move. Or it shows through their emotional spirit. But yeah, I'm definitely here for questions. I know some of the people that tune in just kind of like tune in to listen because they're doing other things, and I really appreciate that. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Been going plan on doing these for about 2 hours every Saturday, just open-ended for people to ask questions and also to give me the opportunity to work on some experimental stuff. I'm never going to be working on like hardcore like people's charts with their names displayed or anything like that, but I hope in general these serve as opportunities to learn, to create just like a bridge of communication, and to give the opportunity for me to share some of the things I know or how I go through the chart. With that being said, I really am grateful for the opportunity to be doing this. And I just want to take the moment to thank anybody who came to listen, who showed up today. Really appreciate it. Shout out to Amber Ford. Shout out to Deconstruct, also known as Muffin of Doom. And also shout out to Orphic Astrology. Orphic Astrology is a great astrologer. I really love their work. You should check them out on Patreon, and also check them out on their website. I'm not familiar with Muffin of Doom's work, but you can find them on Threads. They're engaging they're very intellectually engaging on threads, and I appreciate their commentary and the things that they share. And I believe you can find Amber on socials as well. And I don't know if Amber's launched a website yet, but she's a good astrologer and she should. Um, with all that being said, really appreciate you coming. If you're watching this later, I hope you find it insightful. I'll try to learn how to put timestamps up so that you can see which part of the talk that I'm in, since I'm jumping around. But until then, I hope you all have a wonderful Saturday afternoon. And as always, may the fire inside guide you. Thank you.